I've always been drawn to the woods. There's something about the way the trees stretch endlessly, their branches weaving together like a canopy that shields you from the world. My grandparents' cabin, nestled deep in the pine barrens of New Jersey, was my sanctuary. Every summer, my family would pack up and head there, leaving behind the noise of the city for the quiet hum of nature. But one summer, when I was 16, the woods stopped feeling like a sanctuary. It was late August, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. I'd been coming to the cabin for years, so I knew the trails like the back of my hand. That night, I decided to take a walk. The moon was full, casting an eerie silver glow over the forest. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I just grabbed a flashlight and slipped out the back door. The woods were alive with sound. Crickets chirped, leaves rustled, and somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted. I followed the trail, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that makes you feel like you're the only person in the world. But then, I heard it, a low, guttural growl. I froze, my heart pounding. The sound came again, closer this time. I swung my flashlight around, but the beam only illuminated trees. Nothing moved. I told myself it was just an animal, a deer, maybe a raccoon. But the growl didn't sound like any animal I'd ever heard. It was deeper, more menacing. I decided to head back to the cabin, quickening my pace. The growl followed me, always just out of sight. My flashlight flickered, and I smacked it against my palm, willing it to stay on. The beam dimmed, then brightened again, and that's when I saw it. A figure stood between the trees just off the trail. It was tall, too tall to be human, and its skin, if you could call it that, was a sickly gray, almost translucent. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light like a cat's. I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat. The figure didn't move, but its head tilted as if studying me. Then, it stepped forward. I ran. Branches clawed at my face and arms, but I didn't stop. The growl grew louder, echoing through the trees. My flashlight died, plunging me into darkness. I tripped over a root and fell hard, my knees scraping against the rough ground. I scrambled to my feet, but the figure was there, standing over me. Its breath was hot and rancid, like rotting meat. I screamed, and it lunged. I don't remember how I got back to the cabin. One moment, I was on the ground, and the next, I was bursting through the front door, my parents staring at me in shock. I was covered in dirt and scratches, my clothes torn. I tried to explain, but the words came out in a jumbled mess. My parents thought I'd had a nightmare, that I'd sleepwalked into the woods, but I knew what I'd seen. The next morning, we found claw marks on the back door, deep gouges in the wood. My parents called the local police, but they dismissed it as bear activity. Bears don't stand on two legs, I wanted to scream. Bears don't have glowing eyes. We left the cabin that afternoon, cutting our trip short. I haven't been back since. Years later, I found an old newspaper article online. It was from the 1970s, and it mentioned a series of disappearances in the Pine Barrens. The victims were all hikers, and their bodies were never found. The article speculated about a creature that roamed the woods, something the locals called the Jersey Devil. I don't know if what I saw was the Jersey Devil or something else entirely. But I do know this: the woods are no longer my sanctuary.